Okay, I've been getting a lot of questions about this is like numbers, I think it's 14, 15, 16, 17 or so on homework 4. And most of the people that have been contacting me say they can graph it, but they're just not able to get the C and E parts of the homework right. And it's for good reason, because the XYZ is this one of the few places where it's extra picky. So you could put a correct answer in for C, and it'll tell you that it's wrong, because it's not the way that they wanted you to do it. So I'm going to take a graph of the equation, and from that show you how to give XYZ the answer that they want. Okay? Now, of course, this whole video is kind of dependent upon you knowing how to graph this. So I will go over that a little bit. So here's the equation for secant x. When I see a secant x, the first thing I think is cosine x. So you notice what I've done is I've graphed a cosine curve. So the plus 5 gave me the middle and the 5. The amplitude of 4 told me to go up 4 and down 4 from the middle. So that's why the top up here is 9. You can't see that very well. Top up here is let's see, it's 9. The middle line is 5, and the bottom line is 1. And the period is 2 pi, and the phase shift is 5. So I moved back 5, so that the maximum of cosine moves back 5. So it starts at -5. That's supposed to be -5 there. And the period is 2 pi, so it's going to go from -5 just a little bit past 0. And so that's the cosine curve. And then we know that wherever cosine is at the middle, secant has a asymptote. And this is what we're looking for down here, is the asymptotes, right? So what you notice next is, because the period is 2 pi, that these asymptotes are coming every pi. That's what these little blue lines up here are telling you. So from this asymptote to here, it's pi. From this asymptote to there, it's pi. So it's always pi. So it would make sense to say, let's start. The first asymptote we know of is -5 plus pi over 2, because we know from here to here it's pi over 2. And then we could put pi right here. Then we'd pick this to be every integer. And that would make sense to a lot of you. Okay? But XYZ will not accept that answer, even though it's correct, because I'm starting -5 plus pi over 2 is that, or is that point right there. It gives me the right point. I'm sorry, no, it's that point right there. It gives me the right asymptote, right? And then if I add pi to that, it'll take me to the next asymptote. If I add pi again, it'll take me to the next asymptote, and it'll just keep going. So this is a true statement. However, XYZ will not take it, because what XYZ wants in this little box, so I'm going to erase this. What XYZ wants is just the -5 there. What? They want just the phase shift. And so then what you have to do is adjust the rest of this answer so you get to the right place. So what happens here, when I start at the phase shift, the first thing I add, if I start at the phase shift, the -5, to get to the first asymptote, I have to add pi over 2, right? But then to get to the next asymptote, I have to add 2 pi over 2. And from then on, it's 2 pi over 2. So the way we make that work is we just put the -5 in there, we put pi over 2k in here, and then that's why they have the option over here to pick odd integers. Because notice that'll be, when I put a 1 in for k, that'll add just a pi over 2 the first time to get to that first asymptote. But then if it's odd integers, the next k I'm going to plug in is going to be 3. And notice that from this line to that line, it is 3 pi over 2. And from there to the next one, it's, oops, I can't write that. It's 5 pi over 2. So you see what happened is if I add odd multiples of pi over 2, I get all the asymptotes. And it even works going backwards, right? If I put a negative 1 in for k, that'll take me back to this asymptote. And then if I plug in a negative 3 for k, that'll take me to the next one over here, etc. So that's a short little video on how to get C and E correct for these troublesome problems. The good news is you won't have a question like this on the test. On the test, it'll just ask you to possibly graph the equation. It could ask you where the first asymptote is, or all the asymptotes between 0 and 2 pi or something like that. But you won't have to fit a certain form like x, y, z is expected. All right, hope that's helpful, and I will send this out to everyone.